So Crin is back with another release. This time it's a bassy bass headset even, the Monolith. These are very heavy. The sound is also very heavy, so is the price, also very heavy. And we're gonna find out if these are actually worth the asking price or are they more of a collector's luxury piece. I am on vacation right now, so new change of scenery. Got my vacation sunglasses on, but yeah, let's get into it. These are a very bassy boy. They are very heavy, not only in the weight. These are like made of brass and a gold plating. They look pretty cool, but the bass, the mid bass is very heavy. The overall sound has that slam, the authority. If you want a very impactful low end, these will get the job done. They are also very smooth, so you can like crank them up. I would say the Monolith does have the sauce in the mid bass and the scaling as well, so it's not like just a another bassy IEM. It does have a unique factor to them. The overall sound is very immersive. You're mainly buying these for the mid bass slam, the texture, the overall energy, the authority, and the drums. It's not a warm set, it's more of like a bassy set, but it's got a good balance in the vocals as well. The vocals have a nice pop to them. They're not too tame or you can't hear, the final extension, the air, the power. Overall balance in the vocals are pretty solid, and the bass texture is the main selling point of the Monolith. These are again very good as a bassy set. Now I am a bass head myself. I would consider the Scarlett Minis, the Fat Freak, Maestro Minis, those would be a bass head set. These are borderline bass head at mid to lower volumes, but if you crank them up, they scale very good. The bass becomes more loud, more forward, just bigger in general. And as a higher volume set, these are a bass head approved, kind of like just in the quantity wise. The separation is actually pretty nicely done. It doesn't bleed into the vocals. These are very good if you listen to a lot of hip hop, even R&B. The vocals still pop out nice. You get a lot of slam in the drums, and the sub bass is very deep, very textured, rumbly. The only real, issue would actually not be the sound, right? It would be the pricing. These are $400. For a dual DD, that is definitely a lot. Now this is obviously made out of gold, 18K gold plating. The body is brass, but like the top part is gold, and we all know how the gold prices are these days, so it kind of makes sense. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. There are also 999 units, I believe. All right, real quick, I have some new information surrounding the Monolith. Basically, after I accidentally broke the embargo 2 hours early because vacation brain, that's on me, Crin reached out to me and I was able to have a conversation with him about the Monolith's price. I suggested to him to make a cheaper version of this with the same tuning, but just not in gold, something more affordable for everyone, and he basically agreed. That's what they were planning to do anyways down the road. If people do like the tuning, and I do like the tuning personally, just not the price. However, in order to hit the production unit of 10,000 pieces, he needs liquidity or cash flow to pay the factory, or else they won't make them, which is where the Monolith comes in to fund the more affordable version of it down the line. Now with this new context in mind, it still doesn't change the overall value or my review or my take on the Monolith as a whole. I still think it's expensive. I think it sounds good, but it's easy to love, hard to recommend. But if you do want to help and support Crin make a more affordable version of this down the line for the community, for more people, again, it's the same verdict. It's your money. Do what you want with it. With that said, let's continue on with the video. So it's a limited release. It's obviously not going to be like a value pick or anything like that. If you want to collect a nice looking IEM, I would say, if you have the money, go for it. But for 99% of people out there, you do not need these. Pretty sure you can find very close similar IEMs to these for like half, not even half the price, like $100, right? So you're really paying for the, rarity of the IEM itself. Performance when it comes to the imaging, resolution, the detail, these are around maybe $100 when it comes to pure detail retrieval. Again, you're paying for the rarity, the gold plating, the bling bling. This is more like a kind of like, I'm gonna flex on you kind of IEM. Now, genre-wise, these are very good for hip hop, pop, anything that has, bass. These are gonna sound very good. It might be too much to some people because again, these are a bass headset. If you want a more balanced listen, these are not gonna be it. It's gonna sound too much, too heavy. It's gonna sound a bit, I guess you can say, overwhelming in the low end if you're not used to that amount of mid bass and impact. If you're not a bass head, don't get these. Even EDM, even K-pop sounds very smooth on these. You get a lot of impact engagement in the low end. And then again, the upper mids, the treble is very smooth. So it makes more energetic tracks scale very good and non-fatiguing. Overall timbre is also pretty natural. So when it comes to sound, there's no issue with the sound if you're a bass lover, but it's just that the price is very expensive at $400, which I just can't really blind recommend to everyone. Now, tip wise, I am using the stock tips, the KBS KL7, the classic. These work very well. I don't think you need anything else really. Like if you want more air, maybe go for the Triclarians or something that has like a wider board so you get more, space, air to the sound. A little bit more treble boost to the overall IEM, because again, the treble extension is on the weaker side. It's not very, I guess, technical, very airy. And then scaling wise, again, these scale very well. I'm looking at around at least 80 dBs on, hip hop tracks. K-pop scales pretty good on these, like 75 dBs. You can crank them up, let the bass become more forward in your face. These are a very good high scaling bass headset. Then as for some comparisons versus the HBB DEUCE, this is going to be more mid-bass centric. There's just a lot more authority, heaviness, slam to the drums, to the male vocals. There's more thickness overall versus the more sub-bass focused version that is the DEUCE. If you want more rumble, more extension in the sub-bass, if you want slightly better, layering, clarity in the vocal separation, the DEUCE would do that better, whereas the Monolith is just kind of like slam your brains out kind of set. A lot better when it comes to the fullness, the thickness to the sound, but it does take a slight hit when it comes to technicalities, just because there is just so much mid-bass compared to the DEUCE. Overall, both of these are, I want to say, around the same technicalities, which I guess is the main issue. The DEUCE is like almost half the price of these on sale. It's around 200 to 40. This is 400 bucks, so obviously you're not getting the best performance for your money when it comes to that. And the DEUCE was already pretty expensive when it came out for, dual DD. So this kind of just, puts that on steroids when it comes to value and performance in not a good way. And then versus the Martilos and the Portazos, both of those are going to be better when it comes to the performance. The imaging is sharper, it's quicker in the decay and the drums. Overall resolution and detailed treble extension is going to be improvement over the Monolith, which again is the issue since the price of these are more than the Martilos and almost double the price of the Portazos. But what you get in return is a heavier slam, heavier sound, better scaling, smoother listen. And if you're not a bass head, I would actually just go for the T Pros. Those are going to be better balance, better vocal clarity, better detail, imaging, resolution. Bass texture is still very good. It slams nice, it has a thickness and like a heaviness of the sound. Not as smooth and heavy as these obviously, but for the price, for most people, they would go for the T Pros when it comes to overall performance, while also getting a pretty thick, heavy, enjoyable bassy sound. For most people, I would actually just get the Diablos. It's very similar to the Monolith, doesn't scale quite as good, it's not as smooth and I guess natural in the timbre, but it is like $150, $100 on sale. The bass slam texture, very similar. This does slam a little bit harder than the Diablos, but again, this is like 3 times more than the Diablos. So for most people, Diablo is like a mini, 90% version of the Monolith. You can also go for the 7Hz legatos if you want a equally bass head listen, a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper, a little bit more V-shape in the sound, less, I guess, mid-bass centric, has a more traditional slam, has pretty good sub-bass rumble. Those are also pretty good for like around $100. So what I'm trying to say is that the Monolith, sound-wise, I do like them more than the Diablos and the legatos, but the thing is, you are paying 3 times to 4 times more for a very close sounding IEM. That is the main hard part to get over. So the $400 question is, who are the Monolith actually for? Because they are very expensive for a dual DD. Obviously, performance-wise, you can get much better stuff for cheaper, like the Supermix 4, 150, even the Daybreaks, 160. You got the EW300, $70. You got Defiance around 100. And when you go up to $400, obviously you got the T Pros, you got the Astros, you got the Crescents, you got the Hi4 Mark IIs, you got the Dunu stuff, all a lot more technical than the Monolith. Like they just offer more performance for the price. But this doesn't mean it doesn't have a spot, because it's not every day where you see a gold bass head IEM that scales very well, that's very smooth. It's just that you're paying a heavy price for the gold plating and I guess the rarity and limited factor of the IEM. If that is something that you're willing to overlook, these are still a good sounding bass head set. It's just that for like 90% of people, this is a pass. A lot of people watching, you probably don't need these. You can just get the legatos for around 100. You can get the Punch Audio Portazos. And if you do want to ball out on a bass head IEM, you can get the Q-Ears HBB Punch. They have the ESTs, overall better detail, technicality, slightly better layering. Doesn't slam quite as heavy and hard as the Monolith. So again, this does have a spot in the market. It's just that, are you willing to pay? If yes, you know, go for it. It's your money. But that aside, that is all for this little speedrun review. I hope you found this to be helpful. If you have any more questions, you know, comparisons, drop them in the comments. I'm going to try my best to answer them because I am again on vacation. I can't really go in depth on every IEM. But yeah, that aside, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see everyone in the next one.
Shout out to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, Birak, Walker Standard, User, Tsukasa, Guava Juice Spain, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, CT Jack, Henry Claudia, Cinema Horse, 777ZK, Obi, PM the Wizard, Treble Extended, Mad Herc, TR8107, Shem Bakle, Addy672, Michael G, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori73, Juniper, Ryan, Effin Nadim, Chimika, Raj, Javier, Gelblog, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, MN Gelato, Unbalanced, Vitor Ken, Torcog, Hakase, JRX, Samuel, John Simon, Archie, Sir Eisen, JPLA, Blue Nerd, Firito, Spinner, Sam Z, Raj, Yaboy, Etune, Grizzly, Leanne, Mark M, My Name is Jeff, Francis, It's Mark, Hedgehogs, Kuya Josh, Net Zero, Nerm BMS, Urian, and Benjamin. Thank you guys so much for the support.